Hey guys, Charles Damiano back from the Bruce Lee collection. In this episode of Bruce Lee Show and Tell, I'm going to feature this magazine this week. It's called The World of Bruce Lee. I got this suggestion from Cosetta Stokes, who's a big fan, collector, and follower of this show, and she suggested that we highlight this magazine from Norman Borine's collection. Now, for those of you who've been collecting many years, Norman Borine was a huge fan and collector of Bruce Lee back in the late 70s and early 80s. And in 81, he put out this book featuring the world of Bruce Lee. And what he did is he opened actually the first Bruce Lee store in LA. I believe it was on One Hong Kong Alley in Los Angeles. And what he did is he featured all personal items of Bruce Lee at the store. And he had at the time a lot of people contributing items to the store, like Linda Lee and the estate, and a lot of first generation students. And he had a lot of personal items on Bruce Lee at that store. Everything from nunchucks to the Game of Death sneakers that Bruce wore in that film, to personal letters, the Game of Death tracksuit. And he put out a lot of information and material on Bruce Lee at the time. And I know I used to purchase from him all the time, because at that time it was the first store that ever came out highlighting Bruce Lee, and it had everything on Bruce Lee, from scripts to photos I purchased from him, movie scripts on Enter the Dragon, The Silent Flute, and then he put out this great book, which I like to thumb through today. And this came out in 1981. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. At the time it came out, I was really impressed with this book. It has a lot of great rare photos of Bruce Lee from his films, at home, personal photos with him, Brandon and Shannon and Linda. So a lot of people contributed to the making of this book. It's a very special book. I only have one copy left. At one point I did have three, but I utilized them in trades with different collectors around the world, and I'm down to this last copy. So I'd like to thumb through this with you guys today. I'd love to hear from you to let me know if you guys have this book in your collection. Are you familiar with Norman Borine, who he is from the world of Bruce Lee? Did you follow him in the 80s? So please comment, let us know. I'd love to hear your input on this, and follow me now as I thumb through this book, and I hope you enjoy the pictures in this book as much as I do. Okay guys, follow me now as I thumb through this book. I think you're really going to enjoy it. This is the cover of the book. As you can see, a lot of great photos of Bruce on the book. Here you have him in the center meditating. It's called Special Edition Collector's Guide, put out by the world of Bruce Lee, by introduction from Linda Lee. And Norman Borine, as I told you, put this book out in 1981. He put a great back cover on the book as well. And let's just thumb through some of the pages here. I think you'll enjoy. This is Norman Borine sitting in his office at the world of Bruce Lee, conducting some business. As you can see, here's a great shot of Shannon Lee and Brandon Lee when they were young. And he said with love to Brandon and Shannon Lee, as part of the introduction and acknowledgments of the book. Here's the table of contents. He featured a lot. There's Linda Lee holding a cat in very early days, probably in the late 70s, early 80s, when he put this book out. And again, she contributed a lot to the world of Bruce Lee at the time. A lot of personal items of Bruce. There's a lion picture, which I think you guys seen in a lot of photos of Bruce Lee from Enter the Dragon. Here's Bruce Lee in a very rare shot with Brandon Lee and Shannon Lee at a very young age. As you could see, he was a very big family man, as well as being a martial artist, philosopher, actor. He also was very big on his family. Here's Linda Lee again as well. Some more great family pictures of Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee, Linda Lee. And some other photos here. Bruce Lee at an early age with his sisters and brothers, Robert Lee, Phoebe Lee, and the whole Lee family, his dad and mom. Again, some other great shots, like father, like son. Here goes Brandon, kind of practicing with his dad down here. Here's Bruce throwing a low side kick. Here's Brandon throwing a low side kick. Bruce kind of working out with Brandon in the backyard. He started Brandon training at a very early age. Again, here's Linda and Bruce practicing. Bruce used every opportunity to practice his JKD, whether it was with his wife, with some of his first generation students that he had at the time. Again, more pictures of Bruce. These black and white photos. Practicing some of his Kung Fu at the time. Here he is working out. Again, big advocate of fitness and staying in tip-top shape. And this was just a great book. The founder of JKD, this is when he kind of introduced JKD to the world, when it was featured in Black Belt for the first time in 1971, which is one of the magazines that I featured on this show. Bruce Lee, the great showman. As we know, he liked to do a lot of strength stunts, breaking boards, one on push-ups, on 2 fingers, thumb push-ups. A lot of you guys probably seen that on different videos. His 1-inch punch. He was definitely a performer. Here he is lifting some weights. Here's some personal routines of him lifting weights. Bruce Lee, the fighter. That's his massive book collection. As you guys know, he was an avid reader. So it says here, Bruce Lee, the reader, the writer. And there was over 2,500 books in his collection on everything from philosophy to producing to acting to martial arts, boxing, fencing, you name it, he had it. Anything that he thought would contribute to his learning and being the best martial artist that he could be. And also actor, he kind of had books on, and he was self-taught in almost every discipline, as you could see. Here's the first book he wrote, The Chinese Gung Fu, The Philosophical Art of Self-Defense, which you saw me feature on another show. And again, Bruce Lee in some of his schools that he had in Oakland, Los Angeles, and Seattle. And then you get to all the films he made, childhood star in Hong Kong. So Norman Borine did a great job at putting this book together. As you can see, here he is featured in Green Hornet when he was first discovered, moving on to The Big Boss. Again, some great photos. Here he is in Chinese Connection and Way of the Dragon. And Norman put all this together at the time when he put this book out in 1981. This is a great spread on Enter the Dragon, which you could see here. Here's the original movie poster from Enter the Dragon when that hit the screen in 1973. And then in 78 they put out The Game of Death, and they finished it, unfortunately, without Bruce. But it did get completed. And again, this is actually a front picture of the world of Bruce Lee. That was the actual store at One Hong Kong Alley, as you could see. And in the early 80s, late 70s, when he opened this, it was a big hit in LA. And as you could see here, a lot of pictures on the store, photos, posters, sneakers, movie posters, stills, and a lot of people were contributing at the time to the store. A lot of personal items that they gathered from Bruce Lee. So this was a really big sight to see. Unfortunately, I never visited the store. I'd love to hear if you guys ever visited the world of Bruce Lee. Maybe you could share it with the collectors and fans who follow this channel. I'm sure they'd love to hear stories from visiting the store and how it was to see it firsthand. Again, there's Norman with Linda Lee from the world of Bruce Lee. Here he is again sitting in his office. And again, Dan Lee. A lot of great images of Bruce throughout this book. This is just a phenomenal book. Here's all pictures of Bruce Lee. It's so funny how he had so many different looks when you look at all these images, all the facial expressions. I mean, no one had facial expressions like he did. Every one of them made him look differently, and he looked just as cool in every situation and facial expression that he had. Here he is with Yip Man, who he studied with Wing Chun. In the early days, here's Yip Man holding Brandon. He had a very close relationship with Yip Man. Here is Yip Man celebrating maybe a Brandon Lee birthday. And Bruce Lee, some more photos on him. Here he goes with James Franciscus. It says stars among stars. Here's all the stars that he trained. Steve McQueen, James Franciscus, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Coburn. And a lot of these stars wanted to train with Bruce Lee back in the day, and Bruce had a chance to train them. Here he is in some rare photos. Bruce Lee, the philosopher, working out with Robert Lee. James Franciscus up here. John Saxon, Van Williams, James Garner when he made Marlowe. And again, I think Norman did a fantastic job with his book, Man with Many Gestures, as we just spoke about. Again, more pictures on Bruce the actor, choreographer, Keep the Faith. And this was just a fantastic book that was put out by Norman Borine. Take good care, I'll miss you all. And that's how he ends the book. Very classy book. Beautiful book by Norman Borine on Bruce Lee, called The World of Bruce Lee. Again, let me know if you guys have this in your collection. This is a really, really amazing book. If you don't have it, I would suggest pick it up. It came out in 1981. Again, I'm glad I had the opportunity to share this with you. I want to thank Cosetta Stokes one of the big fans and followers of the show, who suggested we feature this. So I had to kind of ravish through my Bruce Lee collection to find this, and I was able to find the last copy that I have. So I hope you enjoy this. Once again, Charles Damiano saying, have fun collecting.